time to welcome to the stage a very, very distinguished leader in the world of finance. He's the Executive Director, the Chief Investment Officer of ICICI Prudential Asset Management Company. We all know him. Each and every person in this room knows him. And if you know him, you know that he has over 3 decades of experience. He's established himself, of course, as a seasoned investor and a strategist, and we widely respect him for his market analysis and risk management as well. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear guests, please settle down and please put your hands together and warmly welcome Mr. Sankaran Narain.
Thank you. Sorry for being slightly late. I didn't expect it will take 1 hour to come from BKC. This is the most interesting year. So when we started about 18 months back, I first used to think valuation was a problem, and then all the time we kept saying valuation is a problem. But over the last 18 months, what happened was that I realized valuation is not the only problem. And this I realized when I looked at what we were doing on a daily basis. On a daily basis, people were selling stock to institutions. Every day there were some block offers sold by either promoters or institutions or by private equity. At one point of time, we used to have one person coordinating it. Then that person almost collapsed on the job. Then we realized that we had to have, we have eventually ended up with having 4 people coordinating that job. One person doing small cap, one person doing mid cap, one person doing large cap, and another person doing IPOs. So then I realized that this whole problem is not a valuation problem. Actually, what has happened is that the problem has moved from a valuation problem to a situation where the entire risk is being taken by the investor. And this is the problem, not valuation. So when I joined a development financial institution in late 80s, the risk used to be taken by the development financial institution. Then between 92 and 1995, those 4 years, and those of you who have been in the capital markets in those 4 years, actually the risk was taken by the investor between 1992, 93, 94, 95. And entire risk was taken by the investor. And whether it was the investor who invested in Mastergain, Morgan Stanley, Masterplus, Master Growth, SBI Magnum, Multiplier Plus, Boyd E Square Plus, CanStar, CanBonus, I can reel out number of schemes. And those 4 years, a lot of risk was taken by the investor. Then after that, the risk ceased to be taken by the investor. There was this entire 2006 to 8 cycle. And at that point of time, I was in the mutual fund industry. While mutual fund industry was important, but what I realized in that cycle was the Indian corporate was taking the risk. And that Indian corporate was taking the risk financed by the banks. And we were there, but not big. And when that risk did not play out, the banks which had lent money lost money, the promoters who made mistake, they became bankrupt. And that played on for almost a decade. But we were side investors. And at some point of time, we forgot about it and said we will buy only quality stocks. and ignored all those companies and removed it from coverage actually. So if you looked at it, most of the construction companies, real estate companies, infrastructure companies went out of coverage in 2010 to 20 period. And basically we ignored them. But frankly, if you ask me, the risk was not taken in the 2006 to 8 cycle by the investor, the equity investor. They were the main risk was taken by the companies and by the banks which lend money against them. Whereas in this cycle, the entire risk is being taken by the equity investor. If you look at the banks, they are in very, very good shape. They are not doing any lending to corporates. They are not the people who are taking any risk. They are in very, very good shape. You can go and study the corporate balance sheet of all the banks that results have come this time. They are not taking any risk. All the risks are taken by all of you in this room along with your investor. Do you people recognize that risk? I am really worried because see, people think mutual funds are taking the risk, but we are agents. So if you give us money in small cap, we invest in small cap. If you give us money in mid cap, we invest in mid cap. If you give us money in multi cap, we invest in multi cap. If you give us money in large cap, we invest in large cap. So if your investment in small cap goes wrong, the mutual fund will tell you, you invested in small cap, so you lost because small caps came down. So the risk is not mutual funds, the risk is yours. And this is something which dawned on me about 18 months back when I first realized the valuation problem. And then I realized that every call that I talk about, I'm going to talk of only asset allocation. Because I realized that that is the only way in which I can reduce the risk of all of you and the risk of investor, which means that people will invest in equity, they'll invest in debt, they'll invest in gold, they'll invest in REIT, they'll invest in InvIT, they'll invest in all these things, they'll invest in global stock funds, because that is the only way in which I can reduce the risk. So if you remember the panel discussion that we had last year in FIFA, people asked me what is the best investment. I said hybrid funds and asset allocation. And when I look back 1 year back, hybrid funds have outperformed Nifty, outperformed small cap index, have outperformed mid cap index has done better than the other indices. Even it has outperformed the mid cap indexes. Multi-assets so has outperformed all the indices. So I never expected 1 year from last year that would be the situation that hybrid has outperformed everything. But the fact is that you are taking all the risks and your customer is taking all the risks. So if something bad were to happen, like what happened between 1995 and 2003, the risk will be taken by you. And I don't think the mutual fund industry has anything to worry about. It is the investor who has to worry about, because frankly, if you ask me, we have been very, very clear. We have been shouting from the rooftop that you have to do only asset allocation. I don't know how to put it across to all the investors. Actually, the investors are taking even bigger risks outside the mutual fund industry in the form of SME IPO, in the form of unlisted stocks, in the form of even smaller junk IPOs, which I don't know anything about, whether they are junk or not. But SME IPO, I'm more or less convinced because there is very little vetting happens. And in each of these things, personally, I made mistake in 90s. And so in 90s, I became a member of OTC Exchange, which resembles the SME IPOs of today. I have some scrap of paper in my house of some of those OTC exchange listings. All have become zero. And if you look at unlisted stocks, I have 1 or 2 unlisted stocks which I bought in 94. They never became listed. So that again became zero. So I would say that some of these mistakes I made in my 90s, I can tell you. That is 30 years back, luckily. So I believe that those mistakes are happening, but they are outside the domain of the mutual fund industry. So this is what worries me a lot. The second big worry I have is the fact that the mutual fund industry and AMFI have done a brilliant job of SIP Sahi Hai. But what is a SIP? A SIP is an investment in asset. So what SIP you are investing is very important. And I have found it very difficult to convince people, finally a SIP is an investment. So if, for example, you had invested SIP in Brazil in the last 10 years, it would have been a disaster. If you had done SIP investment in Europe for the last 10 years, it would have been a disaster. If you had done SIP investment in Japan from 1990 to 2022, 32 years SIP would have been a disaster. A SIP in small cap from 1994 to 2002 would have been a disaster. SIP in mid cap from 2006 to 2013 would have been a disaster. But people have said SIP sahi hai, but people don't recognize that where you invest SIP is very, very important. So where should you invest SIP? You have to invest SIP in undervalued asset classes, and you have to invest SIP in volatile asset classes. But today the market has converted into a situation that people want to invest SIP in the most overvalued asset classes. So how much ever I try to tell people that you have to invest SIP in undervalued asset classes and volatile asset classes, people have forgotten about it. Then every meeting people say, I am going to do a 20-year SIP. Then I ask people in value discovery, how many of you have 20-year SIPs in value discovery? I could not find maybe one or two people in the room who would have had one or two maximum. And even in big gatherings like this, there would be at the most 5 to 10 people who would have had a 20-year SIP. Then I ask people, how many of you have had 17-year SIPs? Starting from 2017 to 2024 or 25. Very few. So then why do people come and say, I'm doing SIP for 20 years? Because I'm not confident that you will do a 20-year SIP. Because the past experience of 20-year SIP doesn't exist. But still say, no, I am happy investing, doing a SIP in an overvalued asset classes because I'm going to do for 20 years. I say, fine, if you're going to do SIP in an overvalued asset class and you're going to do it for 20 years, it will still work. Because on an overvalued asset class over a 20-year period will become undervalued. So a 20-year SIP in an overvalued asset class will work. Like, I'm sure a 32 year from 1990 to 2022, the SIP return in Japan may be bad, but 2025 that last 3 years may have been much better. So the last 3 years, the SIP return in Japan would have improved. So like that 20-year SIP, definitely there is a very good chance, even if you invest in an overvalued asset class. The whole mutual fund industry is focused on SIPs in overvalued asset classes, not undervalued asset classes and volatile asset classes. And no one even asks whether they need an undervalued or volatile asset class. They say, no, it's okay. So then I keep asking them, are you confident of your customer investing for 20 years? And they seem very confident, whereas I'm not confident. Because in 2020, there were so many SIP stoppages between April and July. And we actually did so many calls between 2020, April and July, telling people to invest very aggressively and failed. So forget stoppage of SIP, we told people invest very aggressively, and we told people it's a once-a-decade opportunity to invest in equity. But still there were huge SIP stoppages between 2020, April and July. I don't have the data, but I'm sure all of you will have the data. So why is it that I could not convince people that, SIP has to be done in undervalued asset class or volatile asset class? And if you're not going to be able to find undervalued or volatile asset classes, do it in safer products. That will actually help you to protect your SIP when there is a downturn at some point of time. This is something which I have failed actually, and I don't know what to do about it. Last October, things were much worse, last September. I feel that in the last 1 month, people are a bit more receptive when I make this statement. Still, people think this person is too cautious, but the fact is, I can see at least the receptiveness is slightly better today. So, these are two problems. One is you're taking all the risks, and second is SIP is a fantastic tool. SIP sahi hai, but choose the right product. Don't choose the most aggressive product. And if you choose the most aggressive product, I can assure you at some point of time, people will come and stop the product at the wrong time. And at that point of time, you will not know what to do. And this is the reality of what it is. What is the third? See, frankly, if you ask me, over the last few years, I have been telling my colleagues, Bipin and Saurabh and others, that the time has come that I have to do little less sales and support. Because what has happened is, it's actually a very simple problem actually. When we had 1,000 crores and we have 2% stock in a company and we go wrong, we have to sell 20 crores. When you have 10,000 crores and you have 2% stock in a company and you go wrong, you have to sell, as you know, 200 crores. And if you have 1 lakh crores and you have 2% company in a company, you have 2,000 crores. So what the entire time that we have had to spend time on is improving our process to try to prevent mistakes of 2,000 crores. I'm not saying we will not make mistakes. But when you're very, very small, like if you're having 1,000 crores, it is too easy, even if you make a mistake. But the moment that quantum becomes 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 or 1 lakh crores, the mistake becomes very, very difficult to solve. And if by chance you have redemption cycles like 2008 to 13 or 95 to 2003, the problem is 25 times bigger. Because as long as you have inflows, at least the mistake becomes smaller. You buy 8% of a company or 9% of a company and you keep on getting inflows, that investment becomes smaller and smaller as a percentage of your corpus. So you will have lesser problems. So 2022 onwards, most of my time is trying to spend how to improve processes to reduce the number of mistakes. Not that we won't make mistakes, we will make mistakes. But we have to try to reduce the quantum of mistakes and the size of the mistake. That is what we are trying to do. And believe me, that is going to be the biggest problem, I believe, for the mutual fund industry. Because imagine you buy 8 to 9% of a company and you find that that company has a flaw, then how do you get rid of it? If you buy 8 to 9% of a fantastic company and then you have to sell it, it is very easy. Or if you have a stock which is mega cap, it is much easier. But if you buy 8 to 9% of a small cap company and you find there is a flaw, how to get rid of it is the toughest job on earth. So most of the time that we are forced to spend time on is improving processes. And believe me, it is not an easy job. That is why it is very easy to actually run 1,000 crores. It is much tougher to run 1 lakh crore or 5 lakh crore. And we have to spend much, much more time. And why as a house we found it much better to focus on hybrid is that in hybrid what happens is as the market goes down, we obviously will not have a problem. Because at that point of time, we have to buy in many of those funds. And when the market goes up, we don't have a problem. In those times, you have to keep selling. So like, for example, in a balanced advantage or an asset allocator fund of fund, most of the time when the market is going up, we have to sell. And then most of the time when the market is going down, we have to buy. That's why we focus much, much more on those kind of products, because there the mistake problem is a smaller problem. Whereas the biggest problem would be in something like where you get caught in 9% in a micro cap, then you have a tough job. Of course, if you keep getting mega money, it is much easier. Because then the problem gets hidden. And that is a bigger advantage. Because then let's say a fund is 10,000 crores, you made a 200 crore mistake, then it is 2%. That 10,000 crores becomes 20,000 crores and it becomes a 1% mistake. So that is what we are maximum focused on, and that is why, most of the time, Vipin is very upset with me, Saurabh is very upset, you don't give enough time to us. Because lot of time we have to spend in improving these processes. So if you take a simple example like the budget, post-budget, what happened was that suddenly we had a situation where, everyone was focused on cap goods and infrastructure. Suddenly it became consumption. And what happened in that process, if you had actually had a portfolio which was totally focused on cap goods, you were finished. And you can't plan it on that day. If you are 1 lakh crore, if you are 10 crore, you can plan it. If you are a mutual fund investor also, you can say, okay, I'm moving out of this and getting into that. But that's not something, we have to plan it much, much before. And if we don't plan it much, much before and execute, we have zero hope, actually. And that is what we have to spend a lot of time on. So coming to, where we are, the budget is, clearly it's a budget, consumption budget. There is absolutely no problem on macro. If you ask me, India is one of the best macro in the world at this point of time. At the same time, I can tell you, it was a tough job for the Reserve Bank to be very, very dovish. Why was it a tough job? It is primarily because of the fact that US interest rates are not low. Will it at one point of time improve? It will improve. Maybe the US interest rates will come down. But right now, the challenge is nothing to do with India, but the fact that US interest rates are so high. And where is the problem? The problem has been that, for the last 18 months, we have been worried, or maybe even 24 months, on valuation of small cap. And the fact is, valuation of small cap has been a real problem. And it became a problem way back. And, frankly, if you ask me, that was a real problem. And over the last 2 years, the problem has become bigger and bigger and bigger. Mid-cap problem has also become bigger and bigger and bigger. The median PE of a small cap and mid-cap has been in 40s, both small cap and mid-cap. People don't even realize it because people don't even know that it is in 40s. But you take any company and look at the result, since we don't talk companies here. You can look at any result, just take the last 12 months PE and take the current share price, you'll know what it is. And you'll find it is in 40s at this point of time, in most company cases. And that's what the median PE is about. And clearly the market cap contribution is also not very high. So in the middle, there were some bulls who said, no, the sector composition is very different. But and therefore, these will grow much faster. But in recent times, even the bulls in small and mid cap have told us that the earnings is not growing. So, and therefore, that part of it is not true at all. But what has changed right now? And this is something my colleagues who look at momentum have told me. I'm not a very good momentum person. And I'm learning it because I realize that momentum is a skill set that we have to learn. The momentum has changed about a month back. And the momentum of small cap and mid cap has completely changed against it. And momentum is a skill set I'm trying to learn because I hear about it a lot. And therefore I said, let me learn about it. And that has completely changed about a month back. Both in small cap and mid cap, momentum is broken. And that's what my colleagues have told me. And that is broken. And it has broken in earnings, it has broken in share price, it has broken in earnings completely. And that has changed. And as far as sentiment is concerned, it remains high. And in our thesis, sentiment is always a lagging factor. Does sentiment work as a leading factor? Answer is no. So sentiment is, once sentiment also breaks, there's no opportunity for you to sell. So when momentum and valuation has already worked, you can't wait for sentiment to break, then you will not get an opportunity. That's what we have learned over a period of time. And clearly, as far as leverage is concerned, leverage continues to be high. The derivative market still shows fair amount of leverage. And, in a way, I would say that you have to be worried about small and mid cap. Do you have to be worried about large cap? Certainly not. There has been huge selling in large cap from October onwards. At some point of time, FIs will come and buy. When they will buy, I don't know. That's why this is the time to start SIPs or STPs in that area. At one point of time, FIs will come and buy. They've been selling large caps left, right, and center after October. So they will come and buy. So the time to start SIPs and STPs in large cap or flexible funds has started at this point of time. And clearly, we used to be anti-quality. But quality is clearly the factor which has underperformed from 2020 onwards. As most of you know, 2020 to 23, it was a factor which did so badly. So that clearly, I would say this budget would be a turning point, because most of the consumer-oriented sectors are quality-oriented sectors. And therefore, we believe that quality is something which will start doing better. Banking is one of the sectors which is universal consensus. So I don't think there's anyone on the street except one or two who are negative on banking. We are also positive, because it's a sector which never got re-rated, primarily because of intense selling from FIs. So, the quality banks first got sold, now the non-quality banks are getting sold. That's what I find at this point of time, the so-called non-quality banks. So what do we believe in at this point of time? We believe that Indian macro is very, very comfortable. There is nothing to worry about Indian macro. What does it mean is, structurally, India is a good story, and valuation is not cheap. That's why I would say you can't be massively overweight equity, but the time has come for SIPs and STPs to be started in large cap and flexi cap. Certainly, it was not the case 1 year back. It was much better to be in hybrid. Now I believe hybrid and SIPs in large cap and flexi cap has clearly started. In mid cap and small cap, caution is certainly recommended. And we would believe that, there is quality, financials, and banking are three areas we are comfortable with. Having said that, it is time for you to look at risk. I think many people have ignored risk in the last 4 years and made huge money. My guru, Howard Marks, says that the most important thing is that you should know there are times when you take risk and there are times when you look at risk. I think the time to look at risk is clearly today. And I believe that if you have not looked at the risk of your customer's portfolio, I think it's a challenge at this point of time. This is the time to look at risk. Markets are not down substantially. 1 year returns are positive everywhere. Look at the risk of your customer's portfolio and manage that risk today. And that is what Howard Marks says, that there is a time to look and take risk. 2020 was a time to take risk. Last 1 year was a time to actually worry about taking risk. What do you do? What are the best signs? The best times are when you see loss-making companies being able to raise money in equity market too easily. That is the best sign. I would say that has been the best sign always. If loss-making companies are able to raise money in the IPO market, that is the best sign that you have to be careful in taking risk. So I would say today is the best time to assess risk in your customer's portfolio. I think all of you have done a brilliant job over the last decade, I would say, because in 2020, I feared redemptions. And I used to tell Nimish and Amar that we're going to get redemptions. Nimish and Amar told me, no. The set of distributors that we have today, like FIFA, they will not allow redemptions to happen in a down market. They went right, I went wrong. So I think all of you did a fantastic job in 2020. I think you owe yourself to be credited for that. But this is the time for you to actually again revisit whether the risk should be taken or not to the same extent. So I always tell people, you have 4 types of customers. You have customers whom have been with you from 2007 onwards. For those customers who have been with you from 2007 and who have behaved with you well in 2008 and 2020, you don't need to do anything. People who have been with you from 2010, who have behaved with you in 2020 and 2011, you don't need to bother. People who have been with you from 2017 onwards and who did not do anything stupid in 2020, you don't need to do anything. But all the customers who have come into the market after 2021, for whom you have never booked profits, I think it's time to book some profits. Because I think they don't know that markets can give negative returns. I think I'm very worried about them. I'm not worried about your old customers. For your old customers, behave with them whatever you want to do. I have no problem about them. But the new customers, there is a new set of customers who are there who think that equity market is riskless, who think that there is no way in which you can lose money. For them, you have to book some profit and keep money on the side. At ICICI Prudential, we try all that we can to try to prevent mistakes. We try to be cautionary even at the cost of not getting AUM. I believe that that's what Nimish and Sandeep Bakshi have told us, that it is important to preserve brand trust and reputation even at the cost of AUM. That's what we work for, and we will try our best to do that. In the process, we may underperform at some points of time, but we will try our best to manage money well. Thank you all for supporting us over the years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Naren. So I'm going to request you, please stay with me on stage, and I'd like to invite Gajendra Kothari, sir, to please join us and present a token of our gratitude to Mr. Naren. Sir, may I request you to come center stage, please? Gentlemen and ladies, a round of applause is in order. Mr. Naren, thank you. We were really looking forward to hear from you, sir. And we really thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule and joining us here today. Thank you so much.